Abraham. Someone needs to give them water. Okay, thank you very much. It's okay to talk to each other as we're doing a quick judge switch. It's okay to hug your neighbor. All right, we'll go over the house rules again. You have a protected mint in which, if I were you, I would use it to pitch. Try as much as possible and get to the point. As much as possible. You'll be interjected by your colleagues, second mint going forward. You're free to interject. And when none of you interjects, it is okay. It saves us time. That may say that people have understood you and love what you're saying. Or you may say, they're saying, go home. Ronald Frank, your car number 1. Okay, I have a mix-up here. One of them was asking about historical factors, and I don't want to go into history. Okay. Ronald, get into those factors that you think make an election democratic.
Thank you so much. My name is Ochero Ronald Frank, Kampala International University. My 4th year, medicine and surgery. Well, thank you so much. A democratic process has a number of factors involved. It's sort of a systemic issue that has to come together.
Wait a minute, I can't see our timekeeper. Where is she? Where is our timekeeper? Can someone volunteer? Timekeeping. Okay. Can you start the clock?
Okay, repeat for me the question. Yeah, I was distracted a bit.
I like that. Okay, it is okay. It is not your problem. Timekeeper, we're going for 5 minutes. So do the stop clock. We're saying, can you take us through the tenets that will make an election democratic in your regard?
An election is a collection of factors that have to come together to make it democratic. A number of institutions that have to work hand in hand to implement what is on ground, in this case, the constitution, how an election has to happen in a country. One, we have the EC to be impartial. Impartiality means they are going to be non-partisan. And then we have to have the neutrality of the security that is involving the police. And in our setting as Uganda, we have the army that comes into play. If they are going to be there, we have to see that impartiality and non-partisanship, or being tied to one candidate and supporting one candidate. And then we have to make sure that executive powers do not interfere in an election. For example, use of state resources to influence an election. For example, right now we have a number of loans that have been got to implement major infrastructural developments in the country. It's a typical example of use of state resources to influence an election. It doesn't become democratic now in that setting. Then another way an election would be democratic is that the majority...
We are open to interjections.
The majority have to be reflected in the results. In our setting in 2021, we saw the number of people that registered to vote out of the 18 million, 59% didn't turn up. Literally, the minority voted, and that is the result that we declared. I think in that setting, it doesn't become the majority, and in that case, it doesn't become democratic. Yes, that is my stand on that.
Okay, you have a question from here, my side.
Thank you. Frank, my question is on your last statement you've made. Is the problem the participation, or the problem is the process and until to the time,
Thank
the
you.
transparency and until to the time of announcing?
The problem,
Your neighbor as well had a question.
participation is also a problem. What is the attitude of an average Ugandan towards an election? What makes them fail to turn up also becomes a problem. Attitude of the voters. Yes? And then systemic issues that contribute to their attitude also become an issue. For example, you know we are coming into an election, but you already know the EC is biased. Sometimes you say, let me stay behind, I don't come. And then you reach a polling station.
Okay, I have a question
You meet
here.
security and they're caning you.
Okay, mine is more like an observation. You're saying Ugandans are using their emotions to actually govern policies in this country to go and vote. Your emotion is not going to send for you a president. If you stay at home because you're biased with the system, how are you going to change the system?
You see, in Uganda, this current government has been painted to have a godlike picture. If you are to read the history of Amin, everything we are told about him is that he's the son of a devil. If you are to read about Obote that led us to independence, they are going to tell you only bad things about him. At the end of the day, our mindset is already biased that we have to uphold this government, come what may. You get? Plus the intimidation that's on ground, plus the biasness that's taking place, the mind of an ordinary voter is that we have to uphold this government in that background.
Once again, from your observation that you stated earlier, in 2021, people went and voted General Museveni, but again, a 35% voted for Mr. Kyagulanyi, which means it's not an ordinary voter's thought. You're actually trying to say that me as Jovia, I am being reasoned to go in 2026 by my parents and vote the government, which is not true.
You remember at the beginning I said it's an integration of systems that come into play. Once we vote, yes, the judiciary have to do their work. Mr. Kyagulanyi petitioned that election. But did the judiciary do their work? All his evidence was denied.
He did not give them
Tangible
time to
evidence.
Kindly drop the microphone.
All his evidence was denied. In that case, it's not a failure on the people's side. Now the judiciary has come into play. They have not done their work. And they have made all of us fail.
Thank
it
you
is
very
a systemic
much.
issue. Thank you.
Thank you. I love them when they are confident. Number two is from Chambogo University. Kindly, when you start, also tell us what you're studying. It's important for the people on the camera. What is your role as youth in delivering a free, fair, credible election? You have 4 microphones. You can switch.
All right. Thank you very much. I think, okay, my name is Kaka Andy Angel. I'm a final year student at Chambogo University offering a bachelor's in business administration. Okay, now that aside, I'm just going to go straight to the point, right? I think, first of all, as youth, we have a very important role to play. Listen, the Constitution itself, right, is what governs any election, even the youth in this country. It definitely means, and I don't think an election is just something that happens in 2026. I think it is a process, and whatever happens during those 5 years determines whether it's credible or not. To your question, in regards to the youth, right, I think the first thing that the youth needs to do is know the Constitution, which calls for civic education. At the point in time that you know the Constitution, that means, because like he's talking about the systems that probably don't work, But those systems are all in the Constitution. They're the ones that govern whatever an individual is supposed to do. The youth, one, civic education is very important because civic education allows you to know your rights. When you go to the polling station, you know you're supposed to cast a ballot by secret ballot, as the Constitution says. You know that you're not supposed to be intimidated while casting those votes. At the point in time that you know that, you then get to make the right decision. Because like I said, an election is a process. It happens over those 5 years. So during those 5 years that you're being served by a sitting president, or the opposition keeps on doing their thing, an election and the Independent Election Commission rolls out results. Even when we have flawed systems, right? I think the youth can still make those decisions. The problem is, and I hate it when youth come on stages like this and start saying, oh, what can we do? What can we do? I think that is a problem.
Point them at what to do.
Yes, that's where I'm going. As a youth, right? I think the first thing that you need to do is hold these people accountable for the things that they do. You know that, first of all, look at the Gen Z that have been rising in countries like Nepal. Now we have Tanzania. Even in Kenya, they force the hand of those people that operate those systems that are bad to definitely get better. How do they force the hand? By holding them accountable. You release probably a budget or the finance bill in Kenya that we are not proud of. We hold you accountable. We take to the streets. And notice, these governments also depend on the youth. Because the youth work, you collect taxes. So there is a social contract that exists between the two of them. That's why you ought to hold them accountable. But that aside from even holding...
You're saying hold them accountable,
yes.
Demonstrate?
Yes.
That's
And aside from that, there should be evidence, right? You should expose these individuals that probably do things that are bad. For example, if you know a certain General Rashande, who is probably, I don't know if he's retired or not, he's supposed to not use state systems, and is probably using them. He holds a pistol, or he has a gun, and he's retired. You have to hold him accountable. Expose that individual. At a point in time that you expose that individual, he has an...
Your neighbor has a question.
Change.
Yes, my brother, you have questioned, you have talked about accountability. If you have to see, in Uganda, a number of protests have been set up, but people shout online and 5 turn up on the streets. How practical is your accountability in the Ugandan setting?
Thank you. And I've always said this, right? The reason as to why the youth go probably, very few people go to the streets, is because of the intimidation that has been put into this government. But one thing, and listen, I think the rest of the people were listening and he wasn't. I say, expose these individuals, right? When you expose them, they have an obligation to change. How do you expose them? We have social media, right? You expose that. Why do you think some police officer that slapped a pump attendant was probably arraigned in court? It's because he was exposed using the cameras. You expose an individual like that, even when you don't take to the streets often, but you expose an individual like that, he will probably be held accountable. Aside from that, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, right? Even when we don't have this, and notice these people have this arrogance that they are. The moment you ashame them, the moment you ashame them by exposing them, that means we have a society that is better. They are obliged to change.
Thank you. Thank you. Our time is up. For a credible election to happen, you need a playing field that is leveled for everyone. Do you feel that happens in Uganda, in third world countries, or do we have a different type of democracy for the third world? By the way, we are a middle income country, depending on what time you listen to the leaders. Do we have a different measure of democracy for the global south vis-a-vis the global north? Do our measures devise democracy classified that this is a component of democracy for the upper north and then the global south? Do you think so?
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
Cynthia.
Yes, my name is Apili Cynthia Esther, a student of social sciences at Makerere University. I want to discuss three things because before we move to the question on credibility of elections, there is need to understand the externalities that influence the role that young people play in elections, but also the externalities that define what a democracy is. Yesterday in my submission, I made a statement and said, democracies do not thrive where you have poor people. They actually don't. Because at the end of the day, the focus is on the electorate. I think we've discussed a lot in terms of the EC, the responsibility of the government, but we are not paying attention to we, the citizens, and what is necessary for us for that role to be significant. And that begins with economic capacity, which is the first thing that I want to discuss. Economic capacity in the sense of the state. The second thing is in terms of the role of education for us as young people. And the third thing is in terms of voter capacity for us as young people. So the first in terms of economic stability. You cannot have a stable democracy, and neither can you have a functional democracy when you're poor. Because what happens is you become dependent. That dependency means you're going to be controlled by the factors of people who fund you. That is why you have the structural adjustment policies by the IMF that largely control and influence the atmosphere of politics in Uganda. What that does is to weaken the essence and functionality of political tools that you largely have at your disposal. Things like campaigns now turn into bribery. Politics lessens the state institution of government, and what it becomes is a tool of like accruing wealth, a tool of accruing survival, because some of these MPs that you see are not actually rich. They are just trying to survive with the money that they are getting from government because they are poor. And that's the idea. So if you do not have economic resources to sustain your citizenry, they are going to weaponize the very tools that are meant to sustain them. Because government in itself is a push for social justice, is a push for social administration. All those institutions become weakened when you're poor. Structural adjustment policies become things you cannot fight because your government as well does not have a backbone to fight these particular things. The second idea is on education.
3 minutes, so the rest of us are able to interject. Carry on.
Okay, so the second thing is in terms of education, and I think this is a huge factor. You are talking about the Gen Zs probably in Nepal, in countries like Kenya. When you look at the average youth in Kenya, these are people that hold degrees. When you go to Ghana, you're most probably going to find a 16-year-old that is an undergraduate student or a graduate already. And that's the nature of like propulsion of education within these particular countries. It's because they've managed to weaponize the very systems that are meant to oppress them, to propel them forward, which is something that we do not have as Uganda. I think there has been a heavy conversation among us as young people that are learned in terms of how the removal of political education within universities largely affected and influenced the civic space in our country today. You cannot go on the streets like the gentleman wants to say. You have young people calling out for rallies. We saw the march to parliament and you have like 5 people turning up or 6 people. If people do not think that they have a lot to lose within this particular sphere, I'm going to take you in a bit, let me just complete that. If you do not like feel like you have anything to lose because you don't identify to things, then you have no essence to actually go out on the streets and riot for them. Your question?
Hello. You have painted a very strong external influence picture on our election. But when we come on the ground, we have not seen the army of France on the streets of Kampala beating people because of an election. We have not seen external influence come into our parliament. Our MPs are the ones who have been voting yes or no to some of these policies that affect our election. Okay. Can you clarify on that?
I will just respond to that simply. So the conversation is not influence in terms of military capacity. The conversation is influence in terms of the economic capacity. If you control an economy of a country, you very much control the country, and that's how simplistic it is. But if you want to go to the physical chart on the military, we can understand the proxy was... Let me just answer his question, then I can move to him. You can understand the proxy wars that have largely been funded if you look at the question of Rwanda and Congo and the influence of the US. But also, these Western countries like France literally fund these international bodies that have a huge influence in the politics sphere. Yes, please.
Speaking of economics, we have been having electoral challenges since the beginning, since the colonial master left us. And poverty has been among them. Who is it to blame and who is failing?
Okay, so a simple response.
Does she have all the time for that today?
A simple response, it's two things. You have a colonial impact or colonial legacy impact on the economic future of our country, but secondly, you have individual weaknesses of people within these particular countries. I think it is important to contextualize both.
I'll
in order
let you
to
go
answer
at that. I know Professor Mumusa is here, and maybe at a later stage he needs to have an engagement with you. Don't we blame our colonial past a little too much for our own abuse? Aren't we abusing ourselves so much and then carrying the load and blaming it on someone else? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, we'll move. You have an election to deliver in a country like Uganda. What do you do to deliver one that is believable? But also, what do you do to deliver the in the last election, 7 million people did not turn up on voting day. Either they were dead, they were disgusted, they didn't care about the election, or they didn't exist on the register actually in the first place. How do you ensure that Ugandans feel the election is worth their time?
Before you put the microphone down, in which capacity am I answering the question? As the EC, as a civilian, or as an institution?
As a Ugandan.
As a Ugandan. What do I do to ensure that Ugandans have free, fair, and elections? Is that your question?
How do you ensure that Ugandans believe this election will deliver them? Therefore, they should come to the box.
In my capacity as a student, my name is Jovia Navagala, and I'm a civil engineering student at Ndeje University. So what do I do in my capacity to actually enlighten Ugandans that they should go and once again trust the ballot? I do not actually think I have to do much. Ugandans have shown up in 2021 and they've casted votes, which means in 2026, despite the 7 million, that we do not know, as you've stated, whether they are disgusted by the election. But their disgust actually sent in a president that is actually making policies up there that are now affecting those disgusted population. Now back to the question. I would go back to my home area and actually try to do civic education to the people in that area to actually tell them, you know what, we once again have to trust the ballot. We do not have to go back and propagate our history. We do not have to go back to what happened. We do not have to go back to the barrel of the gun. We have to go and vote. And then they would come with a rebut that we vote, they count. And again, my statement would be, the Electoral Commission in itself releases a document that signifies everything that happens in these elections. But Ugandans actually take interest in elections on the election day and on the day of casting the ballot. But in actual sense, I want to believe that the first step of the election process is the president being announced. In 2021, when they announced General Museveni as president, that is when we as Ugandans had to follow this electoral process. But then we are coming in when we are in campaigns of the presidential candidates. So I want to go back and believe that if I started in 2021, as I did, to actually begin telling Ugandans we need to change policy, that means we need to change our leader, and train them that these policies, as you're doing your disgust of the elections, that where you don't trust the ballot, you're sending in a civilian that is going to represent you. And I want to believe that the EC, on a lower level, we've had power being transferred. We've had mayors changing from one political party to another political party, from one ideology to another. Why is it failing at general elections? That is because in areas like in Chira, people show up and vote for Semuju in large numbers. When it comes to voting the president, 7 million are at home disgusted with the process. Why? It goes back to the fact that we need to have a strong citizenry, one that would not find disgust in the ballot, because that is the way to change.
Yes.
I'm not okay with her saying Ugandans stand up to vote when 3 million people that qualify to vote have not registered. Last year, more than half of the people didn't turn up. If the trend continues, this time more than half won't turn up, plus those that didn't register but qualify, 66% of the people will not turn up to voting. Well, and yet that's the majority.
Can I answer? 15 microseconds.
Just hold so that effect too at the government?
Yeah, my question is very simple, right? The people that you elect always go to the members of parliament, always go to parliament and tinker with these constitutions to benefit them politically. That means even the mandate that governs these people being elected is tinkered with for political reasons. Even if civic education happens, you're engaging them on civic education.
Okay,
that is
I get your
probably
question.
going to
Can I
be
take it
tinkered
now?
with.
So first of all, to the gentleman, Frank, that is saying that you do not believe that with the trend continuing and people are staying home disgusted by the elections, you're looking at this election with pessimism. You're not selling hope to the Ugandans. And secondly, the people that are going to vote in
Why do you think these Ugandans are pessimistic? Why do you think they are cynical about these elections?
Well, Ugandans are cynical because they feel like democracy is a one-day dream. But democracy is not. It's something that we keep on building, day in, day out, year in, year out. It's not something that we are birthing a baby in one day.
That baby may be also a process of 9 months. Yes, you have an elder there.
Okay, so my question is pretty simple. You've talked about the citizens a lot. Do you probably assume that these citizens do not know the implications of voting or do not know the problems that are affecting them, and how does that influence the turnout for voting?
Okay, thank you. I want to stand 10 toes down and tell you there are people in this country that actually will stand in front of you and tell you I am not political. And if you can stand and say you're not political and yet you're going to cast a vote for a president or an area MP and you've not taken time to actually read their manifesto or have a promise from them, then I believe you shouldn't be casting a vote for this country.
Thank you very much. You are unfortunately the last one. Elo Maboni, right? Abraham. Abraham, I've listened to all of them. There is one unanimity. We have questions of trust, whether it is the process, whether it is the delivered, and you have a population that is growing and young. How do you whip this population? What assurances do you give the young population that this democratic process is still theirs? They can achieve what they want through it.
Thank you so much. Just to recall my name, I am Elo Mabon Abraham from the Center of Excellence in the Art of Africa, and I am a law student in my year 3. Yeah. To proceed, allow me to first recognize Dr. Chiza Besdi as my icon when it comes to this matter. And to begin with, we as the young people, we are the majority in the population of this country. And when you observe well, the stakeholders in the electoral cycle, we have government institutions and government officials, we have culture and religious institutions, we do have CSOs, we have then the individuals, the electorate. And we as the youth, we fall in all those categories. And one thing I would do to assure them, allow me to refer to one of the references I noted. According to the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index 2024, they ranked our legal system or our constitutional structure as 126 out of 142, giving reasons that the factors that are putting it there are the repeated amendments. One, as youths, right now as me as a law student, what do I use the education I attain as a law student? One, I look at the management of the process, of the electoral process. How do I help in the management? They usually recruit youths to be polling agents. But most of the youths that become polling agents become the agents of, again, violating the democracy or the transparency and integrity in the electoral process. Then, too, we also look at the laws that are set in place to monitor or to manage the entire process. And then what is our role? As my colleague mentioned, that then we have to advocate to make sure that we hold these people accountable, to make sure that we get them exposed, and we make sure that the world, both domestic and international, get to know what is happening. And in turn, we do get support. One, As you may see, many of the people that support our CSOs here are foreign actors. And to proceed, before reaching such a level, it is now that we start to lay a foundation to create the trust for the next process. Whereby, to me, the system is not yet ready for the next election. Because when you look at throughout from 2001, 2005, and 2016, the same problems that have been happening are the same challenges in the petitions therein, looking at intimidation, looking at oppression and abductions and arrests. All these are still happening even in the previous.
Okay, it's a point of information. While you're saying the system is not ready, I want us to credit the current campaign trail that is being seen in Uganda. It is actually, people are using the term, it is unusually calm. So if it's calm, I think we are having
suspiciously calm.
Progress, though.
Yeah, to proceed to that, I was heading to there. But one thing we should note, away from looking at what is happening, let us look at the process during and after. What she is stating is before. Let us look at during and after. Still, the Electoral Commission is not yet independent. Proceed.
Yes, this madam has suggested the calmness of the system, and yet in Bukedia we are seeing people becoming unopposed mysteriously, and many other regions. So you may not be caned on the street, but you'll be defeated with a pen. It's the same thing.
My question is very simple, right? I said the election process is actually a process that takes 5 years. So we need to look at the occurrences even immediately after election, 2023, 2024, the abductions, the intimidations. You can't say it is calm when you have these things happening in the election process. I don't think it is calm. It has never been.
Yeah?
The Minister of Justice said we are going to have the quietest election. And those that want to make noise may be helped to keep quiet.
If I may proceed, there were points of information.
Yes.
Yeah, to
Wrap
proceed,
up.
picking it up from what you have mentioned, when you look at the speech of Honorable Mao at the Parliament, the reforms they are introducing are not addressing the challenges that have been there. They are introducing body cameras, whereby a body camera can easily be manipulated or tampered with. But we have to still go on and look at the independence of these institutions. One, the security agencies, the judiciary, and the Electoral Commission, that at the end of the day participate in the process during and after.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to the audience. As I go to the audience, there are interesting things that I'm hearing. One of them says, when you're poor, it is unlikely that you will actually have democracy. That democracy, credible elections are tied in the same glove with wealth. Are there countries that are very wealthy and extremely undemocratic? Maybe. Maybe. Do you want to close your eyes and look in the Arab Peninsula? They're supposed to be very rich. Are they also democratic? Maybe, maybe not. The other question that I also would like to think about, and you don't have to answer it, is the question of the place of the population. This population that is despondent, this population that is disgusted, this population that is annoyed is 43 million. Why aren't they able to stand up to the leadership? Why are they unable to stand up to the leadership? I don't know. Bishop Stewart, I see you. Cavendish. I want to start with those I didn't call previously. The other one is Clark. You turned it upside down. Mutesa, Ndeje. How many are those? 4. I need 2 more. IUIU and Pentecostal University. We are done. Please come with your placard so that the cameraman can pick you and know you were from. Name.
Well, thank you, moderator. I'm Kamkama Susan from Bishop Stewart University, pursuing my bachelor's in laws. And my question goes to the speaker from Makerere University. You were saying that since our economy is controlled by other countries, we cannot have our elections handled freely and fairly. My question goes, are you trying to tell us that we should keep in bondage just because we want to have our elections? I mean, we want to keep our economy running. USAID was cut off. We are still continuing. So.
Konkonam Konkwechol and Sandre Lubadetreva is my epinomia from the mighty Mutesa the First Road University. So my question goes to Makerere University. So referring or following the Latin maxim of Leo de model co autul, Leo de model disoptul, which applies with deco and legal force, that he who utters ellipsis lingua must always be in position of providing a probable sacerdotal. So with the evidence, do you believe that the sagaseges, hinky hankers, and quinkum crankums that are of the Electoral Commission are acting as a stumbling block towards the democratic transmogrification in Hitatu? Thank you.
We have a problem with him midday.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm by name Sempa Muhammad Meris, student from Deje University pursuing a bachelor's in electrical engineering, a finalist. My question goes to the panelists at the extreme end. He goes ahead to tell us we should copy what is happening in the other countries. Countries like Kenya. Here the youths have gone violent to stage riots. I want to ask this question. Do you believe chaos is a sustainable solution in Uganda's context? In a country where we have a different political and social structure?
Yeah, Tamil Alexander Igawa from Islamic University in Uganda. Mine goes to the panelist from MOOC. You said that education, it's one of the things that is letting the youth to join in and try to speak out. But when you look at the UBOS report and also the report from the UNESCO, they anonymously revealed that Uganda has 73% of the youth that have attained secondary education and 71 that have attained primary. That is according to UBOS. Which report? UBOS report through of 2024. That is via the national housing and. You're writing, You're writing a report. I'm relying on the report. You can research it. It is everywhere. I'm meaning secondary education, not degree or what. So it reveals that at least some youth have attained. Is it still the problem of education or there are other problems? Thank you.
Kindly, if you come to quote a report, be kind and tell us which report, which year.
Thank you so much. It's Sechiranda Kenneth from Clark International University. My question goes to panelists from Deje. My question is, what clarifications and proofs of evidence of the Electoral Commission to justify their results of the election better than the civic spaces that were blacked out, minus the ballot papers and tallies that were portrayed afterwards?
I'm not sure I understood the question, but I hope that...
Thank you so much. My name is Nimsima Sharon from Uganda Pentecostal University, pursuing Bachelor's of Law. And my question goes to panelist from Chambogo University. You compared Uganda to Kenya and Tanzania to youth civilists and activists, whereby it is more stronger. What do you think should be done to youth Ugandans to be implemented to be in that same way? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll tell you, deny you a little more food, make the place a lot more uncomfortable. Yes, we'll start from this side. You have up to 30 seconds to respond and make your parting short.
To me? No question was relayed to me, but I can choose
You can
to
do a
answer.
parting short.
Yeah, I want to respond to a question of education, and I do kowtow with my colleague here when it comes to the levels of education. When you look at the education in the levels of education in our societies, they do determine the levels of the standards of living within our societies, and that determines the manipulation, that determines the transactional politics that is eating up our nation, and that determines also the part of ignorance, that most of us are manipulated to go on the front line, to attack our fellow colleagues on the opposition side, because we do not know that things are going wrong. I so submit.
Okay, my question was, the gentleman asked me what other observations have shown the results of the EC. For starters, the EC has a report that clearly identifies from the process of attaining the ballot, through getting the funds, through the people that have voted, through the challenges faced, through the reforms they want to attain in 2026. Kindly, if you sit down and read that report, it is very conclusive. Secondly, we had 11 civil society organizations that came out and actually spoke about the 2026 election. And said that the elections had irregularities, but they were never nullified because they did not have concrete evidence.
Okay, so I have about 3 or 4 questions to answer. I hope you'll give me that time
You seem to be
actually
attracting
answer the
too
question.
many of them.
Okay, so I'm going to start by the first question, which was on our economy. Okay, which was on our economy being controlled by other countries. It is true that our economy is being controlled by other countries. However, identifying a problem does not constitute to condoning the problem. But in order for us to solve something, we must identify it and see it. That is why I talked about the control of our economy. But also, you made an assertion to say we blame these people too much for what is happening to us. Well, who else should we blame? We can't blame ourselves. We can't blame ourselves. However, your currency is pegged to the US dollar. You don't have any other currency to peg your currency on in order for it to thrive and be stable. But secondly, the second question was the
And that is an
Commission.
American problem or our problem?
Here's the thing. If you don't have an alternative, but also if you have an alternative fronted to you, you have 2 options to choose. You can, as Uganda, decide to de-dollarize. However, the impact of de-dollarization on your economy accrues to the US being able to retaliate on you. If you adventure into economics, you'll understand the gentleman's agreement around exportation of raw materials versus value addition and how that limits our economy as a country. But I'll move on to the second question on the Electoral Commission with the gentleman that had a lot of English. It is pretty simple. The independence
That
of
I
the
didn't understand.
clearly, but it's pretty simple. The Electoral Commission's independence defines our capacity to have free and fair elections. So the extent to which it's not independent, we can't have free and fair elections. That's simple. Then the last question. The last question was in terms of education. I think when we understand the lens in which we as Ugandans are educated, it's important to evaluate the quality, the intent, and 3, the outcome. If you are going to school to learn solutions minus a defined problem for which you're learning these solutions, then it's senseless for you. You're making research reports over problems that most likely don't influence you. I come from
Thank you.
Makerere University. We have an institution called the Great Lakes Center. You're concentrating on studying US politics as opposed to Ugandan politics, and that is being funded by the university.
Thank you very much. We'll go to your neighbor. I am very sure when Makerere talks about the Great Lakes, they are not talking about the ones in America.
All right. Okay. So my question is very simple, right? How long do I have again? 30 seconds. Okay. So the question is like, how do we make the youth that are in Nepal and Kenya become like the ones in Uganda? It's very simple. I think the laws that are... Oh, okay, sorry about that. I was saying, right? The question was, how do we make the youth in Nepal and Kenya, the youth in Uganda become like those ones in Nepal and Kenya? The answer is very simple. I think the laws that are made in the parliament that deter you from wearing a certain boot in the UPDF Act affect a lot of youth out there. I think the roads, after graduating and you don't have a job, those things affect you. They are tangible problems. That means, in the long run, the people in Nepal, the people in Kenya didn't just wake up one morning and say, oh, we are going to change this thing.
Thank you.
No, it took very many atrocities, very many effects on them, and the effects were bad. Those bad effects pushed them to the wall, and that's what made them go to the street. And trust me, with the kind of governance we have in Uganda and the kind of tinkering with the constitution, it's going to happen one way or another.
You want to add God forbid?
I am not adding God forbid.
Okay, my question was questioning the feasibility of chaos in the Ugandan setting. Allow history to inform us that the current government came in power through chaos. Mr. Museveni and a group of other young men not happy with the system by then, just like how we are right now, jumped in the bush. They inflicted chaos for 5 years. Miraculously, 40 years later, we're in power. Chaos has worked. In Nepal, corruption has disappeared because of chaos. In Kenya, the government respects the citizens because they applied some chaos. What do you expect Cameroonians to do right now in their current system? What do you expect Tanzanians to do today? Yes? So it's not my opinion. History shows that chaos has worked. And let me conclude. Chaos is not something you advise. Chaos is something you invite through how you are treating the people. And if you could allow me to chip in the economic question, it's still bothering me that we are blaming external forces too much. If we can allow facts to inform us, and I invite you to read the status of the economy from Bank of Uganda, September 2025. They stated two reasons that are affecting our economy: geo-economic fragmentation and geo-economic protectionism. Geo-economic fragmentation means that regions are now trading with each other. For example, people are forming regional blocks. The East African community might want to trade.
Our time is up.
30 seconds, please. I just
Oh,
concluded.
they're done. They're done. They're
Okay,
done.
thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for the gentlemen and ladies at the front. Do a bit better than that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you are from the same university as they are, as they walk down, wave that placard. Show your gratitude. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh. The first group, would you rejoin and take all the semi-finalists, please step up so that you have a photo moment. It is okay for the sun to shine on you. Okay, if you have placards for the universities that they represent, it will be kind for them to have those. As they do their picture moment, we are waiting for the judges. The judges are doing their tabulations. I would like to just bend the rules a little here and just invite Professor Mwambusa Ndebesa for a minute. Yes, I'm going to bully you. It's beautiful to be the boss. Professor Ndebesa, as the judges get ready, I need you to talk to us about this animal our colonial past is responsible for where we are at. At what point do countries break away from their colonial past? At what point do I stop saying I was born of a poor family? As we wait for the judges.
Not an easy question. Africa is a African countries are post-colonial states. Shall we break out? We may never. Why? Among other reasons, by the way, there are other countries like in Southeast Asia, which were also under colonial rule, but they are making a breakthrough. But Africa and Latin America are failing to make a breakthrough. Why? It is because South American states were already nations. They were nation states historically. And it was very easy for them now to create and build nation states, strong ones. Africa and Latin America are mere geographic expressions. Africa and Latin America are mere geographic expressions. Therefore, your question as to whether we shall break through, I am not very certain how we shall break through unless maybe we recreate new nation states, not those created by the colonialists. However, the point you are making is that we have over concentrated on blaming colonialism without looking at how we can overcome those challenges of colonialism, and always looking for a scapegoat. We are always looking for a scapegoat. I agree with you that we should stop scapegoating. However, on the other hand, it is not easy for African states to stabilize. Why? Because of these structural conditions. Imagine in Uganda, those of you who are Christians or those who have read the Bible, Uganda is a Tower of Babel. There are 5 linguistic groups: the Luo, the Bantu, the Ateker, the Karenjin, and the Sudanic-speaking peoples. Then for ethnic communities, I don't know how many. Then we are multi-religious. So it is not easy to create a nation. Nobody should tell you that it is easy to create a nation. But can we create a nation out of this crisis? Yes, we can. In my opinion, we should not have a melting pot. A melting pot is the method of USA, where everybody must have one culture, must melt into one culture. We should not assimilate. I don't believe in assimilation like the French and other societies do. We need a salad bowl. What is a salad bowl? You know a salad bowl. Let us all accept unity in diversity. In fact, some people were talking about democracy, that democracy is the rule of the majority. That is a minimalist definition of democracy. Democracy should also be respect for minority rights. Democracy should also be respect for diversity. Democracy should also be defined by respect for the rule of law. Democracy should also be respect for separation of powers. Democracy should be much more than merely having the majority and erode it to the minority. There is somebody, sorry, let me answer this last one. Somebody raised a very important question, very critical. I don't know whether you will conceptualize it. He said, what if the majority are wrong? I need us to go and discuss that question. It poses what we call a paradox. In Egypt, the majority the majority came on the scene, the Muslim Brotherhood, you know, they won elections. And Sisi, this current leader, had to take over that government of those Muslim Brotherhood because they were not respecting the Coptic Church, they were not respecting the women, they were not respecting other minorities. It was the same thing in Algeria. In Algeria, a government came into power through majority vote, popular vote. But they were fundamentalists. They wanted to deny these African Arabs space. They didn't want to listen to the women. They didn't want to listen to the Christians. Now, if the majority also wants to take away the rights of the minority, they are not democratic and they should be brought to order.
Thank you very much. I need to hear from the judges now. Okay, a bit of procedure. As we finish the consultations, I think we would do well with one of the judges talking to us before the announcement. Any of the judges, if you would like to give us the highs and lows of the debate, if there are things you observed that you think, okay, here and there we need to polish up on A, B, C, D, before we get into the results.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Peter. The debate has been interesting, and so key points, our observation one is, like we said, there's been a lot of generalization. So, you know, you be specific, and I think Peter's been trying to help them. What would you do? 1, 2, 3. In debate, we call it signposting. You can come and first signpost and say, I'm going to talk about ABCD, because we're not down. And then you were able to explain. I think most of you did that well. And then the decorum, it's important to respect each other, and which I think majority have been doing. Others have been calling the other by name. So we need to avoid language that is not good for this audience. And then the other one is to just ensure that you make your point. Most of you have been losing like 2 minutes in preamble, who you are, where you came from, what you believe in, repeating the question. By the time it is 3 minutes, we actually have nothing to write because there is no point. So always be snappy, precise to the point, and also make sure that you are speaking to everyone. Lastly is the smartness. Of course, I come from a different political thought, but you see it's part of the marks, like we said, and confidence, how you're able to articulate your issues. And so if you communicate and only you understand, then just know that no one is speaking what you're saying. Then you haven't communicated. So, but overall, this kind of mode of debate is to put you on the spot. And so thank you so much. All of you are winners. All of you are doing great. But we can only have winners to represent us. So I'll let that be done by Judith and the team. But thank you very much. And also thank you so much, Peter, for this. Yep.
Thank you very much. As the judge comes to take us through that ugly moment, I need to say to all of you as university students, a lot of you are going to roll out into the world of work. And many of you that are not going to be entrepreneurs are going to walk into interview rooms. Learn to use your first 1-2 minutes to pitch yourself. A lot of the boardrooms you're going to walk into, people suffer from the 2 minutes syndrome window. If you haven't said it in the first 2 minutes, they'll stop listening to you. And currently, unfortunately, we have the cell phones. What they're going to do is, if you're not saying it in the first minute, they're going to turn to their cell phone and go away from you completely. So everything else you'll say after that will not be heard. So learn to pitch in your first minute. Say it, pitch it, then people will attend to you. If you don't, people switch off and people are tired. Judge, the unpopular moment, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chivazo. My name is Robert Ojambo. I teach at Chambogo University, Department of History, Archaeology and Heritage, which I also head. Thank you so much, judges and the audience, for cheering up this debate. He pointed out a few things before I announce the results. I just want to add more too. In the debate, it bores a lot of people to come here with the inaccurate data. Please don't bring out data which you are not sure about. There is no way Uganda can have 73% of its young people with the secondary school education. You go and check properly, it is not true. Then creating new terms that do not exist. Like idealistic policies to mean ideology. The person said idealistic policies, then he was explaining ideology. That political parties don't have idealistic policies. And many others. Please try to avoid such when you are in a public like this. Number two, you don't need to answer everything. If you have not understood or you don't know, you just leave it. Don't pretend talking when you are saying nothing. So having said that, all the 10 universities that qualified to the semifinals did very well. And I would like you to once again clap for them. Clap for Bishop Stewart University, represented by Aine Biona. Clap for Busitema University, represented by Noamanya Mugisha. Clap for Gulu University, represented by Ogenrot Elisha. Clap for Islamic universities in Uganda, represented by Tamale Ahmed. Clap for Kampala University, Digombwe Jackson. Clap for International University, represented by Ochero Ronald. Clap for Chambogo University, represented by Kaka Ande. Clap for Makerere University. By the way, this is another big mistake. Makerere University is not abbreviated as MOOC. It's abbreviated as MAC. M small k A K. So don't come here and say MOOC. You will be like a villager in town there. Then clap for Ndeje University, represented by Nabagala Jovia. And the last but not least, UCU, Uganda Christian University. Of course, somebody who comes from there was trying to change the name of the university. Please don't do that because it's a brand. Okay, now these are the 5 finalists. Please clap for Gulu University. With the 80%. Clap for Kampala University. With the 80%. Kampala University, represented by Digombwe Jackson, to be specific. Please clap for Makerere University. How many places to go? 2. Those 3 tied 80%. Please clap for Chambogo University. With 81%. Can somebody guess the last one to go? If you want to guess, just put the placard up. And if you guess, you get a prize. No, all those are wrong. Please, finally, clap for Uganda Christian University. With 82%. So, ladies and gentlemen, the 5 universities scored 80, 81, and 82. So they are almost at par. We are going to enjoy the final. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Housekeeping.
So thank you.